is Conan the Barbarian's people? Where would he really live? And what would he really look like if he were real? Is what I'll be discussing in this video. Though from when I looked up, it does say Conan's people are the Cimmerians, but yet it says that their supposed homeland is near the British Isles or the North Sea, which is not at all where the real Cimmerians would have most likely hailed from or lived. And listening to the beginning line of the first movie,
between the time when the oceans drank Atlantis and the rise of the sun.
Again, it seems to be, and especially from the Wikia, it seems to be referring to the flooding of Doggerland and the formation of the North Sea around 8,000 years ago. And it seems to suggest as if Conan, or that the series is set around 6,000 years ago. Or around the beginning of the Copper Age in the Near East. And not only is the location not correct for where the Cimmerians most likely really came from, but also the time period is incorrect either. Again, from what we can tell, the real Cimmerians would actually have lived much later or were around much later, and their original homeland was actually located much further east. Or in that case, among the Eurasian steppes. But nevertheless, just like Conan's original home in the first movie, they do seem to be so up in somewhere with forests and mountains, which it presumably in real life would be the Caucasus, and the people who end up attacking his village and kill his parents and take him away in order for him to be sold into slavery happen to control an area or come from an area with deserts, which would presumably be the Assyrians, who also, when the Cimmerians tried to invade them, only for the Cimmerians to be completely annihilated by them. And at first, the Cimmerians, being that they were also nomadic, and that they were never in the same place forever, seem definitely at first like your stereotypical barbarians. Because they have a nomadic lifestyle, they're never in the same place forever, and they also go around plundering and raiding, and they were also a very warlike people. 2. So it's clear the person who wrote the Conan books, it's clear he was not making these assumptions about the Cimmerians by accident, and it's clear we already know that it's definitely based off of a real people, and the Cimmerians were a real people that were definitely very much like Conan the Barbarian. And it's clear there is some truth to his stories, and that he was not just randomly coming up with it out of thin air, and that it was clearly based off of some real events that happened during the 8th or 7th century BC, as this map clearly shows. And they even sank and destroyed the kingdom of Phrygia in western Turkey, which was the kingdom ruled by the legendary King Midas, who died shortly after. Of course, after his kingdom was sacked by them around 700 BC. You know, King Midas, the guy who was so obsessed with gold that he asked the gods to give him the golden touch because that's the only thing he loved. Yeah, that guy. Even though he may not have been able to do the golden touch, but from what it sounds like, he definitely was real. And also, it also seems to be right after the end of a period in Greek history called the Greek Dark Ages, which followed the Bronze Age collapse and to transition into the Iron Age. And indeed, it does seem like, in a sense, just like the Dark Age we know about, the early medieval Dark Age following the collapse of the Western Roman Empire. And that literacy rates started to go down. And many of the major civilizations in the Near East, of course, their social hierarchies or social systems end up collapsing. And that even Egypt would experience a very long and steady period of decline that it would never recover from. Just like with Rome. So indeed, it does make sense. And it's clear it wasn't just made up out of thin air, and that such events like this really did happen in real life, even if it is mostly overly exaggerated. Now, for what Conan the Barbarian would look like if he were real. Now, here's a little slideshow of some examples I found on Google when I Googled Cimmerians. So yeah, they're shown looking not that much different than the Scythians, who would come along just a little bit later, and eventually, seemingly, taking their place among the steppes. But yeah, actually pretty cool looking. And also, they seem to wear hats that look just like Smurf hats, which are referred to as Phrygian caps or Phrygian home. It's because it is named after the region where many of them have been found. Phrygia, that same kingdom I already mentioned these guys sacked and obliterated. Well, anyway, thanks for watching. Leave a like and subscribe.